All right, good morning, everybody. This is the April 20th CAPN office hours. As always, this is recorded to YouTube or recorded and posted to YouTube, so don't say anything that you wouldn't want shared with the whole world. And I think we have one major item that Chao is going to show us some of the work that he's been doing with all the nested controllers. Chao, if you want to take it over, I can make you the host if you're ready.
Sure. Could you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm going to do a very brief demo of how to use the nested controller I'm working on. And I hope that can help because I know Chris is developing a nested control plane controller. And I think maybe you wanted to have all these components work together. So I think this demo may help you to see how this three nested component controller work together. And I'm going to do a very brief demo. Just let me double check if I have a Minikube. Start, okay. Yeah, I need to start a Minikube cluster locally, and I will let you know when I'm ready, and I will start sharing a screen.
Sounds good. You should have co-hosts. You should be able to share your screen whenever you're ready.
Okay, great.
My update is I'm still working on things. Been slowed down by other work going on, but still working on them. This demo will be nice. I'm excited to see all these working.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just you guys may know. So I think more and more people ask questions about VC through the issues. Yeah, I kind of resolved some of the issues. Yeah, we noticed that we do need a release. You know, some people run our demo, but that image was 4 months ago. So the VM agent, so that the VM agent doesn't work. It's kind of hard to debug. So I have to guess it is because of the version problem. So indeed it is. So yeah, we'd better have some kind of release.
Is there a bunch of open issues right now? Oh, sorry.
There's no. So I think let me check right now. So yeah, I closed some of them in the past few. Yeah.
If you ever need any help with those, and because I don't get as much ping probably as you do. If you ever need any help, you're more than welcome to assign things, and I'll try and help triage with those.
Yeah, but
Cool.
I guess once we have a kind of release, it's kind of easier because saying
definitely
okay, that demo is tied to that release. Just make sure the demo works.
Yeah, and we can update everything and get it all up to date with whatever that release is.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. All right, we'll let Chao take this over.
So could you guys see my screen terminal?
Yes.
Yep.
So I just create a Minikube cluster, and I write a lot of like scripts, small bash script that generate secret, create a CRD and anything. So I will talk about the script later. So actually I just do the run demo. It will create all this CRD first to generate the certification and a key for each component. And then we'll start running all this we'll try to create this three nested component. And then I just do some manually, just do some block here and waiting for everything is ready. And it will generate a kubectl file, help us to access the small virtual cluster. So if we check on the left-hand side, if we check the CRD, we have this 4 CRD. And if we check the nested etcd, we have 1, which is not unready. And API server is unready as well. Yeah, and the control manager is unready. Let's check the post state. Yeah, so sometimes the nested, like if you can see that nested control manager, they may crash because the nested API server has not been ready yet. So maybe we need to restart several times until the nested API server is ready. Yeah, so think right now it's okay. Yeah, still waiting for the nested controller manager to be ready. I think this part we need to do some tweak because after maybe like after restart 2 times, the restart frequency will be dropped or something. We need to wait for a longer time. Okay, let's restart again. Yeah, so yeah, great. So I think we have something like let's go to the demo. I think we have, okay, NCP. So I generate a config file, and this config file can help us to access the Yep. So that's the virtual cluster, the small nested control plan, which is right now, which is running. Let me double check. Yeah. So the nested API server is ready. etcd is ready. Yeah, all these 3 components are ready. So yeah, that's the demo. I know it's short.
That's fantastic. That's great progress. That's so awesome to actually see all 3 of the controllers working together. So your script is basically just generating all of the PKI, what the nested control plan is supposed to be doing, and adding all of that stuff in. I think you're showing it. Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I wanted to let me just go through the PKI script very, very quickly, and you will see what nested control planning to do. So above is just functions. So following the function they call, first we need to generate the line 199. So first we need to generate the CA root, and then we need to generate the Kubernetes certification, which is used by the API server. And I'm not going to generate the client certification separately. I just generate one certification. This certification will be used by API server as the server certification and also the client certification when the API server talk to the etcd, and also when API server receive the request from controller manager. So just use one certification. And the next one is the service account certification, service account key, which is used by the control plan, because control plan are going to use the config to access the API server. And then it's the control plan certification, controller manager certification, and also the controller manager config file. And for each of this PKI stuff, you need to create a corresponding secret to holding them. And then finally, you generate a configuration config file for this control for the controller manager. And I didn't create the etcd certification here because I'm going to reuse this Kubernetes certification for both API server and etcd. Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, I can send you this script, and maybe you can can better help you to figure out what certification or PKI we need. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I would really appreciate that. Cool. And so this is basically what we can automate with Cert Manager, and as well do the inbuilt stuff that we're doing, or like what is being done in the
Correct.
Yeah, in the Kubedium Bootstrap provider. Right. Fantastic. This is really awesome.
One last thing I forgot to mention here. Yeah. So we have to set ownership. If you remember, for each nested components, we have an ownership field. So the ownership must be set as the nested control plan, like nested etcd, KAS, and KCM. Their owner must be the nested control plan. That one must be done. This step must be finished by the nested control plan controller as well.
That makes sense. Yeah, so it can actually
all these things cannot be created. Yeah.
Very cool. Now my one question. So when it was coming up, you had all 3 of the pods booted. So why you had the controller manager as a pod already being in like this scheduling perspective. You had that. Is there conditions that we can wait on that we would be able to not have it sit in that crash loop back off, or sit in a waiting state?
Yeah, sure thing. So we can add another way. Yeah. So when we create, I just have all these controller to set up the stateful set for each nested component separately. They are not waiting for each other. So we can add an order here, like what we did in a virtual cluster. So we can have the etcd up and running. Once the etcd is ready, then the nested API server controller can start deploy the stateful set for the nested API server, and same for the nested controller manager. We can put this logic into the controller reconcile loop of the controller. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
I think that one is this way could be better, right? Instead of waiting for, instead of have all these components keep crashing and restarting. Okay, sure. I can add this logic into the reconcile loop. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Then we're at least not showing a bad state when it's potentially just in provisioning still.
Right.
I like this. This is fantastic.
Okay. So one problem is about waiting for the components waiting for each other is if we wanted to, for example, if the API server wanted to wait for the etcd to be ready, then I think we have to keep pulling the status of the etcd nested etcd components, nested etcd, right?
Can we sync? This is, I think, if you have triggers based on the owning NCP within the individual docs, you could, or within the individual component controllers, we could technically have that mark when it's ready. So you don't update the endpoints to connect to etcd until they're ready, or even have an actual phase on there if you wanted to sync that up to it. So in the status for the NCP, you basically could have etcd's phase and the API server's phase to make sure that you could trigger off of those, or you could just do it off of not setting the values until it's in a ready state, if that makes sense.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I see. So that means when one of the components is ready, the NCP will set the status as ready, and then that one will trigger the reconcile loop of one of the nested. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Basically, check its dependency tree for being able to be deployed, and that means that even if you were to drop in a different etcd implementation, all they have to do is set that status for it when it is provisioned as well, and it triggers whatever's next. So you still have like that high level orchestration.
Okay, got you. Okay, yeah, I will try this idea.
I wonder what that will do for upgrades, if that'll cause any issues, because you'll have to, well, I guess we probably do have to maintain it off of a state so that we can do extra triggers for if it's in the middle of an upgrade between two versions. We probably need to know about that so that we can trigger upgrades on the nested components. Something to think about.
Yeah, I think this needs to be considered. Yeah,
I think if you do the ordering, you probably have to check the NCP CR, right? You don't check, for example, your controller manager won't directly check the API server. You should check the NCP CR for the status.
Yeah, that'll make it so that we can, that makes it so that those are a little bit more distributed, or the checking of it.
Yeah, so if you remember, we want NCP CR at the central place. You can access it by checking the on the reference anyway, right?
And if you have owner or owns set in your actual reconciler, it should automatically trigger as well if you have an update to that owned resources.
Yeah. So cool. That means we need to put, I don't remember, do we have a status? So we have the status, like if the nested etcd is ready inside in the nested control plan status, right? We have a field. Do we have? Or we need to visit the nested component through the nested control plan.
Sorry, trying to find the unmute button. We don't have the phase or anything like that. We only have the connection points. So we have under status for NCP, we have the etcd addresses, what services in essence it can point to. And then we have for the control plane status, we have just the service CIDR. We can probably just add phase to that, or ready, true or false. Phase seems more supportive of the declarative component, the declarative controllers. But ready is typically more what we see in CAPI.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, cool. Okay, so nice. I think that's all from my side.
Yeah. So yeah, but I think this is okay for the first version anyway. So my only concern is upgrade process. So we haven't tried, since we introduced VC, we never tried upgraded the control plane. So you never know. So just be a little bit careful to introducing any weighting, because in case you introduce a secular dependency, then it's stuck. So unless we try the upgrade process anyway. So I think it's okay, but we definitely need to try. So we need to think about the process of upgrade individual component, like upgrade API server. What do we look like? So for example, we change the version. So I'm guessing etcd probably fine, but the controller manager may crash for a little while, or I never know. So we never know. So yeah, that's a mystery part that we need to figure out.
Yeah, having etcd upgrades in here is going to be interesting as well. Since I mean, since VC currently isn't even set up for it, everything's just in memory. So it'll be interesting to work out all those strategies. Which I think is why it's nice that you can kind of like drop in, replace if you don't want to, if you have something that's pre-built.
Yeah, for instance, if etcd is doing the upgrade process, so if you access API server, what error do you get? Or you get you probably don't get any. You probably, if it is in cache, and you don't get any error, or you will get any error anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah, that'll.
So are we going to use the etcd, the one which we introduced with the open source, that they do the graceful upgrade, that they will switch when there are two components running, and one is upgrading, another is not. Then after the upgrading done, then they will fail over to the latest one. Is this the one that we are going to use? In this case, I tested a little bit. Seems it's quite smooth. You don't see this glitch.
Yeah, I have never tried, to be honest. So I don't know. So if you have an in-flight upgrade, so you will make them eventually consistent, or are there? I don't know. The upgrade can share the storage. You can switch to new storage during upgrade, if you. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we weren't going to be prescriptive towards using that. We were going to have the in-tree one that would work. It might not be full support for everything, and then we can always use external things like going towards what is it, the improbable engineering one that you were playing with, because I think that's a good one to have in our back pocket as this is potentially more supported and has more operations built into it, things like restore and snapshot and so on and so forth. But for ours, we can build at least works so that you can run the system. Whether or not that's a perfect production ready version of it is debatable. Whether we need to go down that path of actually owning an etcd, yet another etcd implementation out there.
Yeah. I can ask our internal people how they do the etcd upgrade. So I'm guessing they won't have this kind of hot upgrade, like you don't break service while doing upgrade. My guess is probably you will have a few seconds downtime, something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, a few seconds for sure. Yeah.
Cool. I don't have anything to show for right now. Still working on my stuff. Does anybody else want to talk about anything? else we can end early?
Yeah, I think it's okay. We're in kind of good shape right now. At least we have 3 components working. We just need a brain. So the brain just so orchestrate everything.
Yeah.
I think we probably okay with current schedule. Chris, you need 1 more week, I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Cool.
I should have something by the end of this week. I'm dealing with a couple other things, but yeah, I should be able to get to it. Just bogged down. And then that should wire up the NCP side of things and the NC controller, because the NC is just such a basic controller. It's just pretty much just a single reconcile func.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good in the milestone. Anyway,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
And then we'll be able to start working on what's next. How do we integrate this with the rest of VC, and how do we integrate the syncer into this, and so on and so forth.
Remember, if you check NCP KPN issue, I asked somebody forward the issue to KPN. He wants to have the customized EDCD exactly. So he sent an issue in the VC repo. I point him to here. Say we are doing the exact same thing here. We are just introducing the interface, and you probably can just leverage the interface and implement your own EDCD if you want. So I'm guessing one more people are serious putting it in production. They need to face a problem exactly you face. So you want to have a formal EDCD support.
Yeah. Absolutely. So did they file an issue in CAPN yet?
I believe so.
Virtual cluster enable OLM in tenant controller.
Yeah, that's one of them.
User.
Yeah, OLM is one of them. I remember somebody else talking about the ETCD, but yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But OLM is the issue that they file. They want to. It's kind of they want to have some customized default add-on installed on tenant API server, I believe, which is not in our current roadmap, but indeed in our roadmap, right? So we need to have a way to, because the tenant API server could be look similar in the sense that in terms of add-on. So for you want to install some default add-on for all the tenants. He probably just want to install the OM operators for all the tenants, which makes
yeah, default operators and things like that. Well, it should be supported out of the box as long as we get the base infrastructure from CAPI set up, because once we have the base set up from CAPI, we should be able to deploy those with the cluster set resource. Cluster. Okay. Yeah. So there's basically a whole resource that was built for doing, let me just make sure. Is it called cluster? Scott,
cluster resource set.
Thank you. Yeah, so cluster resource set will auto deploy those things for you when a new control plane comes up, which will be perfect for this exact use case. It's the same thing that we want to do with auto deploying Core DNS, since originally in VC we didn't make that a hard requirement to have Core DNS deployed.
Yeah, I think all these are kind of good news. People seems to take it seriously to use it.
Yeah. I'll add some comments to that just to make sure that they know that that's coming down, and what they can look for to get support for that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, this is fantastic.
Once the control plane is up from the CAPI perspective, the cluster resource set just doesn't apply once on any manifest in a cluster resource set that targets that cluster. It uses a cluster matcher based off of labels, and then can apply to any cluster. So you can set one cluster resource set for the entire environment that just targets any cluster as well, and then set up anything that way. That's traditionally, most of the CAPI providers use that for deploying a CNI.
Nice.
Automatically.
Does that support any resource? Like, can you, for example, if you wanted to,
you save the YAMLs in either a secret or a config map on the management cluster, and then you give basically a reference to that config map or secret, and then it deploys whatever YAML is nested within there.
Oh,
awesome. That'll be sweet. Yeah, that'll be great, because some of the things that we had to do for VC to do our weird network setup, that's a little bit different than what Faye and Chow are working with, where we're basically deploying with the superclusters network as our actual network. and not doing separate networks. And so we have to deploy a mutating webhook with every single control plane. So that would be fantastic if we could actually deploy that. We have even some other mutations that we have to deploy automatically into our control plane. That's awesome. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I use it today for mutating webhooks with Caverno, actually.
Oh, sweet.
And I deploy that way automatically on all my clusters. So it's very easy to do, and it's just in a config map that could easily be done in the base template, let's say, of CapN.
Nice. Does it do active reconciliation? Like if somebody were to go in and delete that mutating webhook, it wouldn't actually reapply it?
Currently, it doesn't. Currently, there's only an apply once method. There is a field for reconciliation method, and currently the only valid option is apply once. But that is planned for next steps of the cluster resource set. It's just not there yet.
Fantastic. I love it. That'll be great.
I think that's a very good point. So probably we need to have some documenting in our repo for this, because this is going to be a common request anyway. So
yeah, we'll have to figure out. So once we get release 1 out that actually works, that people could start to provision, we can go back to Cappy's docs as well and start to get some of our stuff integrated into that. Not integrated, but at least called out so that there's some cross references. And then from our docs, we can basically say, okay, for this specific implementation, just like you're saying, for deploying an add-on into your cluster, go use these resources so that we don't have to maintain duplicates of all of that.
Okay, good to know.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
this is.
Yeah, that's probably also resolve some of internal requests. So I remember we have similar internal requests. They did something differently, but I think this approach looks reasonable.
Yeah, we did something different as well, because we don't have CapN stuff running internally yet. We basically wrote a custom syncer with a checker that does exactly the applies for our mutating webhooks. And it's just like, okay, this is just it works, but it's on that periodic basis that the checkers go, or the patrollers go. So
right.
Nice.
No, I know CapV is using this even for the CSI and CPI installations within core cluster API vSphere. That's how they're doing it, and that's how it seems AWS will do it when they move to the out of tree provider as well. So it's becoming a serious core component of cluster API,
Awesome.
Not just for admins.
Sweet. That's fantastic. Faye, the one thing that is in VC right now that I don't know how that'll integrate is all of the in-tree for provisioning the Ollie Yun control planes that are actually done there. Is there an Ollie Yun cloud provider, or cluster API provider that you're going to be able to integrate with to be able to do that same exact function? Or do you not even need that? Because at this point, once we do the integration with CapN's control planes, we'll abstract the virtual cluster CR enough that it will that you could wire up any control plane you give it. Or how is that planned? Do you know?
Yeah, 2 approaches. One approach is leave it as it. Second is switch, just write another CapN style controller for Ali Cloud. So 2 approaches. But in my opinion, that option, Charles correct me, that approach, that option is just for demo purpose, right? So nobody uses it seriously. Charles, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, sorry.
So that Ali Cloud provision style is just for demo purpose, right? Nobody uses it seriously, does it?
No one uses it.
So yeah, we can put it in lower priority. So I would yeah. So even though we migrate the repo, this kind of thing probably will stay for a little while on it, if it is okay for you, Chris. So just
yeah. Well,
yeah.
once CapN, this controller manager, I guess, is actually up and running, it won't have any. So if we can do it this way, we basically could have it so that we'll add a new provisioner into VC that is just a non-provisioner. And then we can we don't need to deploy VC manager. Wait, let me think through that.
We still need a VC manager. We just don't do all the provisioning. VC manager, because VC manager is reconciled for VC CRD, so that's different. So the whole the whole thing is where do you get the credential of the VC? That's all we need.
Okay, I guess yeah, that makes sense then. So we'll basically have probably new fields on the actual VCCR or CRD for the kube config and wherever, like the endpoint or something like that, some connection, or even back to a cluster CR, some reference to something so that we can actually access the new control planes. What's in the actual reconciler for VC Manager then, if it's not doing provisioning? Is there even any?
Yeah, we do. We needed the kube config for the virtual cluster because we maintain the cluster set. If we have an MC controller, need that client. So
I wonder if you can just supply that as a field. Basically have it so that if you supply a field, we can default to what's currently in VC Manager so that it doesn't, so that backwards compatibility is supported. But if you set a new field on the VC CR, that is the admin kube config that it needs to connect to, which in CAPI just has like that set term, the cluster name dot kube config. Yeah, if we just set it so that you can actually add that into it, then it just uses that instead. Yeah. And then I wonder if those reconcilers even do anything. I don't, because there's no default. Oh no, there's some defaulting set up within.
Reconcilers still need to do something because let me think about it. Yeah, for the new version, probably not.
Yeah, we can basically just add like a no-op provisioner if we even need to deploy VC Manager, because we're not going to use cluster version because that won't be there anymore. Yeah, and VC is the only CR, so it's almost just that because the syncer pulls up those caches separately.
I think they just cache the secret into VC object annotation, so that's one important thing.
I gotcha. Okay, cool. That'll be a fun integration.
Yeah. So, but not big issues. If you need to add one more field, that's okay. But probably not if you. But I think there are some hardcode path in the VC Manager, assuming you have the root namespace, so you can find row secret in the root namespace. But that is different in KPN.
Right.
That's the whole point. You probably need to tweak it.
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't think that we have a major problem for that. So the only thing is for the old provisioning way, I'm guessing we probably have to keep them. For example, the cluster version thing, I'm thinking we should leave that option there. So if people just want to use the cluster version, if they used to use that, maybe it's okay. Just keep use it. And cluster version means that there's no upgrade, so you handle all the upgrades. So you do everything manually. So, but I remember one guy say that they want that way. But anyway.
Yeah, Bright wanted that, if I recall correctly. Yeah. And we'll get back to it. I mean, we're going to get back to what was the original term that we had for it. I think it was NCT or something like that, the nested template. We'll get to that for sure. Because I think you're absolutely right. It's just nice to have we can highly customize these things. And then we have the top level orchestration that makes it much easier to actually to operate from a just bring up perspective.
For Cloud,
so that should also... That should be looked at. There's a new proposal in Cluster API on a cluster template that is going to be used that basically abstracts away almost everything. And the cluster object will have number of control planes and number of machines and the version, which will make it so you could deploy all of the CRDs yourself with more customization, or to get a standard implementation, the only two CRs you would need to deploy are a cluster template that could then be reused for any clusters of the same type of flavor and a cluster object. And then the reconcilers would create all of the other CRs for you for machine deployments and KCPs and all of that.
Nice. That's fantastic. Okay. That makes it even less resources for us to own just on our own.
That should be V1 Alpha 4. So Vince is running that.
Awesome. Sweet. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, just check that. Yeah, so yeah, I think we better check that spec. The only thing we don't need a machine, so we have less trouble with machine. I see a lot of problem with machines. Anyway, yeah, that's probably just the kind of strategy and the way that we are going to do integration later. So that's, I think we all agree with that. I don't think integration is a problem. So it should be super easy.
Yeah. Cool. Chow, if you can share that that doc in Slack, or your demo script in Slack, that'd be fantastic. And I'll get that PR, or I'll get a PR up for review, at least for the MCP stuff this week, and then hopefully next week I can demo orchestrating all of it from the top level.
Okay. Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, I will send it to you. That's great. Yeah.
Sweet. Cool, everybody. All right. Well, I guess I'm gonna call this then, and then we can sync up later or sync up over Slack. Sound good?
Cool. See you.
Cool.
Bye bye.
Yep.